Welcome to the Silver Screen Podcast. I'm Jared Boomer.
And I'm Katie Gainey West. This is a podcast about movies and pop culture.
And it's been a while, but we're back with a quarterly or bi-monthly episode. I don't know how often we're going to do
you
these,
name it.
but
Guess. But we're happy to be back.
But we're back. We're going to talk about 3 different movies today. We're going to talk about Sinners, Thunderbolts, and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So we're going to give our thoughts on all 3 of those movies, which are 3 big movies that have come out recently. So we felt like we needed to kind of cover them and talk about them a little bit. So it should be a good discussion. All 3 of those movies are pretty different. So it should be nice to talk about.
Yes,
so.
This was just such a good excuse to get back together too, because, well, we said we would, but also I needed to get out and go see some movies. I'd been in a play, which was awesome, but the play was over and I was like, wow, I don't know the last time I sat and watched a movie at home or went to the theater. And so I just fit them all in a week.
There you go. Before I went and saw Sinners last month, I think it was the same experience. It had been probably like 2 or 3 months since I had been in a movie theater, which is a long time for us. Cause like,
for sure.
A lot of times we go like every week or every other week, especially like as we get to this time of the year when it's like all the big summer movies are coming out and around the Oscars. Like we're in the, movie theater basically as much as we're at our jobs for the Oscars. So just putting in 15 hours a week at the movie theater. So,
but I clearly missed Jared because we were on here for about 30 minutes before we hit record and we were joking and laughing about everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't get to hear any of that.
I mean, some of it is like, we don't want it to get political or anything else we're talking about. We need people to listen.
Exactly. So we got to keep it about the movies. So there's been a lot of stuff that's happened, though, since we last had an episode. First up is the new Pope. So
congrats, Pope Leo. Happy to have
Leo
you.
From Chicago.
That's
from
right.
Chi-Town.
First American ever.
Yes. So, the conclave, it happened in real life. The movie came out last year and we had a real conclave. I will say after seeing the movie, I did kind of understand how the real conclave worked a little bit better. Like
absolutely.
It seemed like the movie was pretty accurate to what actually happens. Like
That's
they all go into a room, they're sequestered, they do multiple rounds of voting. Yep. All of that was accurate to what actually happens with the actual conclave. So,
and then I was kind of surprised by how many people watched it. Did you keep getting the updates like on social media and stuff? It would tell me how many people have viewed Conclave since like the Pope had passed, Pope Francis had passed.
Yes.
And it was like millions of views. But I was like, how did you all not listen to our podcast at the end of last year where we said Conclave was one of the best movies of the year?
Exactly. And then people were also watching The Two Popes, which was that Anthony Hopkins movie that came out like 5 years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, the Pope movies were very popular when we were in the process of.
And I'm not Catholic, but I feel like I have some ownership. Like the Pope matters to me, so I'm glad that they picked a good person. I
think the exciting thing too about the conclave is until they announce the name, you have no idea who they've picked.
Yes.
Like the election, you have the 2-3 candidates, whatever. And so it's going to be one of those 2 or 3 people like for president.
Right.
And the votes kind of come in gradually for that. So you kind of get a sense of what might be happening. But for the conclave, it's like there's so many people that it could possibly be, and you have no idea until they announce the name. So
yes.
I think that's very exciting because there's not really much another election like that, where
and
it's all
far
secretive.
Between. Like it doesn't happen a lot.
No, and this Pope's pretty young, so he might be the Pope for a while.
So,
other celebrity news that happened, not really a great transition, but Demi Lovato got married. So yeah, Demi.
She seems very well liked, and she looked really beautiful, and I'm really happy for her.
She had a rough time there for a couple of years, so it's good to see her back on track.
I'm glad she's okay, absolutely. And then this is just a follow-up because we were talking about it in our last episode. Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster. I said Futton Sauster. Anyway, wow, where are we?
Hugh and Futton.
Hugh and Futton, they're fully together now. They, I wouldn't say they did a hard launch on Instagram, but they've hard launched all over the city of New York because
every restaurant in New York.
They're every restaurant, every street corner. They're holding hands, making plans. But let me tell you, yesterday, his ex-wife Deb, she released a statement and she's not pleased. Although,
Oh,
well, I am disappointed in Hugh. And then he has an affiliation with Ryan Reynolds, and I'm disappointed with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. So everybody is not in my good graces. Not that they care. And
yeah,
speaking of Blake Lively, that trial's still going on, and that's
yeah.
wild. We
She's
talked
still in
about that
court.
in like February, and it's still happening.
Yeah, I think that in February it was getting ready to start,
Yes, because
or
I
it
think
was.
March is when it started. I think you're
Hmm.
right.
But the
Yeah.
fact that it's May, almost June when we're recording this, and it's still
Oh,
going on, that's
yes.
crazy.
And then they said that Taylor Swift has been subpoenaed, which I heard she wasn't pleased about. I wouldn't be either. She
I
doesn't like to
wouldn't
get
be.
involved in these kinds of things. And it's weird that she's involved at all.
Hmm. It seems
But
like a Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni,
mhm.
situation here, and I feel
Mhm.
like Blake may just be pulling her in because she's a friend, and
And
so
famous and gives her,
she wants her to, testify on her behalf or whatever.
right.
So yeah,
But
but
I think in good news, Beyonce's concert tour has started. And from what I hear, rave reviews.
we should have had Allison on because she went
I saw that.
in Chicago. So I
Was
did
it
not go,
amazing?
but she said it was fantastic. So
Ugh. I know so many people that have gone.
it's a very extravagant tour from what I've seen and what she
That's
told me. And
amazing.
she
Good for
performs for like
her.
3 hours. So
Love it.
she had a lot of fun. She loved the Cowboy Carter tour. So.
Good. Excellent.
And then our final news item is that Variety has announced their Actors on Actors series for this season, which is season 22 of Actors on Actors. Some of these are interesting. Some of these are not all that exciting. They'll
Tell
be
me
on
everything.
they'll
I'm
be on
excited about
Variety's
this.
website starting next month. So here's a few of the pairings.
Okay.
I won't go through all of them, but some of the ones that were more interesting that stood out to me. Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito will be chatting
Huh.
with each other.
Huh.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Patrick Schwarzenegger will be chatting with each other.
Okay.
Father son there. So
Mhm.
we have Dave Chappelle and Mo Amir.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
Seth Rogen and Jason Segel.
Makes sense.
Parker Posey and Lisa Kudrow.
Oh, that's fun.
That'll be a fun one.
That's a good pair.
Amanda Seyfried and Adam Brody.
Oh, I like that
Javier Bardem and Diego Luna.
too. Ooh.
Kate Hudson and Catherine Hahn.
Okay.
Adam Scott and Kristen Bell.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then Kathy Bates and Billy Bob Thornton. So those are some of the highlights. So
Huh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Not as strong of an actors on actors as in the past, I don't think, but some of those will be interesting to watch. I think particularly the Parker Posey, Lisa Kudrow
Yeah,
one,
I'm definitely gonna
and
watch that
maybe
one.
Adam Scott and Kristen Bell could be interesting as well.
And I
So
like Adam Brody and Amanda Seyfried, so I'm excited about that one.
yeah, and these are all obviously TV, like people that were in TV shows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are obviously a lot of them are actors as well, but they're going to be talking mainly about their TV shows and what they've been in. So
Cool.
yeah, so this will be on Variety's website. I'm sure they'll be on YouTube as well very soon.
Thank
Uh,
you, Jared.
some things that we are watching, of course, the reality TV is going strong in the Gainey West
Now,
household.
have you been watching any of the ones I listed?
I have not been watching any of these, but Allison has got me watching 1,000 Pound Sisters, which is like guilty pleasure. Uh, they're such a mess, but she was watching it, and then I just, it was like the situation where you come in, you see what's on TV, and you can't like
Yeah.
turn away or
Yeah.
walk away, and so now
Yeah.
I've just been watching the episodes with her. So
Wow. Well, I unfortunately watched the second season of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
we started to watch the first season, and
Yeah.
I just could not get into it, so I
Yeah.
cut out.
I get
But I
it.
know it's very popular.
It's popular. I mean, the only reason I started watching it was because it's popular. I will say I despise almost all of them. The thing that makes me the most sad about them actually is how their kids are treated. And it's not like anyone's like outright abusing them or anything, but they're doing all these TikToks and things, and their kids are in the background. And I'm like, this is so sad. Like, your kids are so used to this that this isn't even weird to them, but also you're paying no attention to them. They're not reading, they're not playing outside, they're not like doing arts and crafts, they're doing TikTok dances or just watching you do them.
Hmm.
And maybe, I mean, that is my opinion, but I don't think I'm the only one that has that. But it's like all I can think about when I'm watching it. And I do know that it's kind of unfair that during the show, I'm sure they have people that'll watch their kids. But a lot of times I'm sitting there thinking, like, where are your kids? Who's watching your kids? You are moms and say how important that is to you, and the church is important to you, but like, I don't see you with your family at all, except for these husbands that are also doing the TikTok stuff. And I don't know, it's just to me it's like a gross way to live, but and then they also are just so the second thing I hate is how hypocritical they are. They'll be like, you shouldn't have sex before marriage, but also we're all divorced. And shouldn't we definitely don't drink coffee, but like we'll drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Like so many things. I'm like, what? What? So anyway, they've put me off being a Mormon for sure. Um, and then as far as the Bravo verse, of course, I'm going strong with my Bravo shows. I'm watching The Valley, Love Hotel. Jared, do you know about Love Hotel?
No, what is
It's
Love
new.
Hotel?
Love
Okay.
Hotel is new. So they have 4 of the beloved housewives, and they are basically on The Bachelor.
Oh,
So
okay.
they just bring some men, but they're like their age. They're like 60-year-old men that are coming to like date them. And it's a very condensed timeline, but it's cute. I love it. And then I'm
Okay.
also watching, of course, Summer House and Real Housewives of Atlanta. Real Housewives of Atlanta, they've revamped the whole show, new cast, mostly new cast. Absolutely loving it. Surprise of the season for me. So thrilled. And then I'm also watching, of course, my murder shows, my crime shows, my Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Organized Crime, and Dateline.
Of
Always
course.
Dateline. Always and forever. You cannot just do not don't ever end Dateline, please.
You and the senior citizens watching Dateline.
Yes.
So
Yes, we can talk about every episode. I'm deep in it.
Hey, I know it's very popular. It's been on
Yeah.
for so many, just like Law and Order.
I know. I love those shows. I love them.
So that's what we've kind of been watching. I haven't really been watching a ton of stuff. Basically just been watching like the Indiana Pacers in the NBA playoffs.
Heck yes. What
I don't
a
know
good time
when
to be a Hoosier.
when this comes out, if they'll still be in the playoffs or not. Hopefully they are, but
you know what? They're doing great.
they
They're
are.
doing great. I'm
As-
so proud of them.
How do you feel about Timothy Chalamet being a Knicks fan?
Listen.
He was at the
Timothy-
game in Indy the other night. Both games.
No.
He was. He was courtside.
Stop it. Sean was there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was at game 3 and game 4.
Have I stopped breathing? Where are we? Hold on. I have to text Sean. I'm going to text Sean. But what? Okay, but here's the thing about Timmy. Timmy, he's kind of like Tom Hanks. He just can do no wrong. Like, does he disappoint me sometimes? Sure. Is he still with Kylie and I'm upset about it? Yeah. Also, yes. Knicks fan when we're rooting for the Pacers? Yeah, disappointing. But I still love him. I still do. I can't help it. I got to text Sean, though.
Even with all his faults. So
even with all his faults, you know what? He's young. He's still learning.
that's true.
Am I right?
I think, yeah, you're correct. So some things that we have been reading recently. You and I both read Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Is that how you say her name?
I think so. That's what it looks like to me.
Very, very good book about a family that is kind of in this sequestered, like out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much on an island that is surrounded by the ocean and wildlife. And there's a lot of talk about wildlife and animals and how they are surviving. And basically what happens at the very beginning of the book is a woman washes up on the shore, and then they have to, figure out who she is, take care of her, all this stuff. And her story gets revealed as the book goes on. But very good book, not super long, interesting the whole way through. And yeah, I thought it was just really well written and really well done. And the setting was really cool too.
Yes. It kind of, I liked that it was a remote island.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it revolved around the dad's relationship with his kids. I thought that was beautiful. There were so many beautiful things about that story. Some of it was definitely sad, but it was all sorts of kind of genres. It was like, it felt almost historical, even though it wasn't. It was very like talked about science. Like I had no idea there were seed like pods like that. I did not know
and
that
like
was
seed banks. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I had heard seed bank before, but I never even thought, what is that or where are those? So that was fascinating.
It's like a thriller at times.
Thriller for sure. And it's just got such this beautiful family dynamic with the woman that comes from out of nowhere and also with the father and his kids. Beautiful. So that's been one of my favorite books so far this year. And then I also just read P.S. I Hate You by Lauren Connolly. It was obviously a rom-com. Was from Book of the Month. It was so good though. And it was another one that kind of just shocked me because it was about a brother and sister that were super, super close. And it reminded me of Sean,
Okay.
but it also made me cry because the brother dies. Like at the very beginning, he's passed, and she's at the funeral. And they weren't twins, but they were super close, and they were pretty close in age. And he leaves basically like a scavenger hunt for her, and says, "I can't go to all these places. I can't do all these things because I'm dying. So I need you to go and do these." And she falls in love on the way, which is there's a lot more to it, but it was a beautiful story.
Okay. That's cool. So,
And are you I'm reading two things right now that are really good. One is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, which Obama said was one of his favorite books so far of last year. I think he put it at the end of the year was one of his books.
okay.
But Sally Rooney, she did conversations with people, normal people, and the like. And then I also am reading The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. And that is about, there's also a movie of the same name. And it's about girls in the 1920s who radium was discovered by like Marie Curie and her husband, and was his name Pierre? Why can't I think of it? The Curies. They discovered radium. And so they knew that you could use it to combat cancer, and they knew that you could like put it in your body, but they didn't fully understand the ramifications of like long-term use or exposure and all that stuff. And so the Radium Girls, basically they were painting dials on a
Okay.
watch, like numbers on a watch, and the dials on the watch with a paintbrush, and in between strokes would put it in their mouth to wet the brush head to make it pointy. And they did this all day, every day. And they made fantastic money because everybody wanted this. And so they were paid a gazillion dollars. They were paid like what you would imagine like men on Wall Street would make now. But these women were making that in the 20s. Like they didn't even fully have the right to vote, or they had just got it. It depends on what year, because some of this overlaps over a period of time. So it was a great career for women, but then they found out what was happening. And I mean, we're talking like people having jaw bones just come out of their mouth, like fall out of their mouth.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
because apparently they found out that radium also attacks your bones like calcium, kind of like a bad form of it. It's fascinating, but it's a longer book, and it's science heavy. It also deals with all the legal stuff, like trying to win cases. Also, a lot of people die, like a lot. So it's kind of a downer, but it's a fascinating story. If you like not historical fiction, if you like history, real history, that's a great
Hmm.
book to read. And then the three books I'm looking forward to are very popular right now: Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, and then My Friends is the newest Frederick Bachman book, who did A Man Called Uwe and all those. So those are the things I'm going to be reading next.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Frederick Bachman book too. I know it just came out. I haven't gotten it yet though, but it's on my list to get because he's one of my favorite authors. And then right now, what I'm reading is I am reading Chris Whitaker's book, All the Colors of the Dark. So Chris Whitaker, kind of like a thriller mystery author, read
Oh
his other
yes.
book and it was really good. This one is a little slower, but I'm kind of getting through it. And then I'm also reading You Like It Darker, which is Stephen King's short story collection that I think came out
Ah.
last year, maybe.
Okay.
Um, and I've read one, two Stephen King books, like longer books, obviously. But I'm kind of liking this short story collection more than those. I think his writing is maybe better when it's condensed a little bit, and when
Uh huh.
it's there are some long short stories in there. Like one is like 150 pages, which is a pretty long short story, but then there's some that are only like 15 or 20 pages. So it's nice because you can just kind of stop wherever. And if you want to continue reading more stories, you can. Or if you just want to kind of stop in the book and come back to it, you can, because the stories don't connect to each other in any way. So,
Jared,
yeah.
you picked such good, but I like seeing your updates on Goodreads. But also, All the Colors of the Dark has been on my list for a long time, and I already have a copy of it, so I'll be excited for your update. Also, we have a live update here. I texted Sean in all caps. Did you know Timothy Chalamet was at the Pacers game the other night? Did you see him? And one thing I love about my roommate is he's not even surprised by this text message. He's not like, "Who is this? Why are you contacting me?" Who's Timothy? He knows
Mhm.
exactly what I'm saying. But he said they didn't go to the game. They were around there, like they waited at the entrance, and they were like, he was with a group of friends. So he said,
Okay.
I think he's been at all the games. He has this, I think he was sitting with Ben Stiller. And I'm like, Sean, I just love that you know that. And
I'm
that
pretty
you weren't
sure he
weirded out by the question.
I'm pretty sure he was next to Ben Stiller. So
Dag nabbit. I
you could have
can't
been
believe I missed him. And I was even in Indiana. Well, I was in Indiana
over
on
Memorial Day
Monday.
weekend.
Yeah, but
Okay.
then I left because I watched the game that they lost, game
Yep.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
Yeah.
good luck, Pacers, and also good job to us for reading books.
Exactly. So
Yes.
we also have a few movies that we are excited for that are coming out here very soon. We'll just run those down for you really quickly. The soonest one will be Ballerina, which is the new John Wick movie starring
Mm-hmm.
Ana de Armas. So that'll be fun to go see in theaters. Obviously, continuing the John Wick franchise. This is the first like spin-off in movie form. I know they've done a TV show, I think, but I haven't watched that. So looks like Keanu's still in this a lot, though, even though it's like Ana de Armas is kind of taking over the role. So
Yes.
another one is The Materialist. Is this the new Celine
Dakota
Song movie?
Johnson. The
Yeah.
what? Yeah, I'm so excited about this because I loved Celine Song's last movie and I love all the actors in it. And of course, my man Chris Evans is in it. Where has he been? Well, he got married. That's what he did. But I'm pumped. This comes out his birthday, and the only reason I know it's his birthday is because it's also Rupert's birthday, our cat's birthday.
Ah.
So I'm really excited. I can't wait to see it. I hope it's good. But Celine Song's other movie was so good that I have high
Mhm.
hopes for this one.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal also in this. So
Heck yes.
it will be very exciting, very popular, obviously.
Yes.
To check that movie out. So that comes out in just a few weeks, so not long at all. And then some other movies we have, of course, F1, which comes out at the end of June with Brad Pitt, directed by Joseph Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick. So that'll be should be like your standard just like action movie, I think.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good. If you like racing, you'll
I
probably like
thought
that
you'd be
movie.
excited about that one.
I am. That's probably one of my most anticipated ones of the summer.
Yeah.
That and then Jurassic World or Jurassic Park or whatever. I think it's Jurassic
Rebirth.
World, the new one.
Is it?
Rebirth.
My bad. My
That's
bad.
okay.
But I know
Uh,
it's Rebirth and I know who's in it and I'm pumped.
should have
I
been
have
called Jurassic World Reboot because they're just rebooting the
But
franchise.
you know
So
what? I really hope this one doesn't suck. But it's Mahershala Ali, Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey. Who else am I missing? It was like I
I know
could
that
not
cast seems
believe
like
the
it should be
cast.
good.
Like
I'd
how?
I'd much
Yeah,
rather watch them than Chris Pratt
please never. Let's get him out of the
and
movies.
Bryce Dallas Howard go on
Yeah.
adventures. So
Yes.
yeah, I think this cast has the potential to be pretty good. So, and then we also have The Roses, which will be out in August. I don't know a lot about this one. Oh,
I
Benedict
don't either.
Cumberbatch? Okay.
Yes, I saw a preview for it when I went to see Thunderbolts.
Okay.
And I'd read that was the next movie he was in. I don't know much about it except Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch are getting divorced in the movie.
Okay.
And so I think it's called The Roses because I want to say it's kind of like The War of the Roses, which is an old movie. And I could be making that up, but I almost wonder, but I think Roses is their last name.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Or
based.
Rose,
It is based
Roses.
on that book that came out in the
thought
80s. So yeah.
Wow, how did I know that?
I don't know. That was just you just pulled that out of a hat. So
Like in my brain, that was in my brain, but it's because okay, there was also an old movie. I'm also getting it confused with two things. There was also a movie with I think Jack Lemmon that was so depressing that I watched in middle school that was called The Days of Wine and Roses, and it was basically encouraging people to not become alcoholics. Was why we watched it.
okay.
It was a really sad movie. Not something I would recommend, but anyway, interesting. But it looked like kind of a comedy basically, but with good actors, and I thought, well, that could be a fun little summer flick.
It looks like it's a remake of there was a movie that came out in 1989 that had Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, and Danny DeVito in it. And Danny DeVito directed this one. So
Oh, wow.
and it came out in December of 1989. Did like very well at the box office. And it was
Cool.
pretty popular, but I have not seen that. So but that'll be fun. That should be those two together should be fun. Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch in that one. So that'll be out. later this year. We'll take a quick break here on the show. We'll come back. We'll get into our discussions of Sinners, Thunderbolts, and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And we're back here on the Silver Screen Podcast. Time to get into our movie discussion. First up, we're going to talk about Sinners, which might be the most complex movie of these three.
For sure. It
in
absolutely
terms of
was.
story and plot
It
and what it's
was.
trying to say. Directed by Ryan Coogler. The synopsis is: trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that a greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld in the leading roles for this one. So this is a very unique movie. I think this is one of the most unique movies that I've seen in quite a while in terms of it mixing a lot of genres together. It is like a horror film, but it's not like a slasher horror film.
Right.
At least, and there's really no horror for the first hour 15 minutes of the movie.
Right.
It's somewhat of a romance. It's got a lot to say about race and racism and segregation. So there's a lot of topics that Ryan Coogler is kind of exploring in this one.
And I did have a quick side comment just because I do live in Dayton, but Hannah Beachler did the production design for this movie, and she also did Black Panther, and Moonlight and Creed, but she is from Centerville, which is really close to Dayton, and
Oh,
she
cool.
went to Wright State University, and she was the first African American to win the Oscar for Best Production Design. So I was excited to see she did this one too. You could kind of tell, I mean, how good the production design is anyway, but she is clearly a talent, and has a really good relationship with Ryan Coogler. But I thought that was interesting. And also, I love twins. I don't know if I already said that, but obviously, I love twins. So I was excited. And honestly, if we had Michael B. Jordan, if he was two of them in the world, not a problem for me.
So Michael B. Jordan plays twins that are named Smoke and Stack.
I love that.
They used to be a part of, was it Capone's gang, I
That's
think
what it
is the
sounded
backstory.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they kind of split off into their own thing. And now
Yeah.
they're coming back to their hometown
Mm-hmm.
because they want to start a juke joint.
Yeah.
And so they want to open that up because they think they could make some money, and their town needs that. And they're coming back to Mississippi. That's where this takes place.
Yeah.
So
The minute I knew we were in Mississippi, I was like, we're in trouble. Because
Mississippi in
basically,
the 30s, what could go wrong?
no racism at all. You know what? And it's completely eradicated today, especially in Mississippi. Am I right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So then you have Haley Steinfeld, who plays Mary, which is Stack's ex-girlfriend in the movie. You have Miles Catan playing Sammy, who goes by Preacher Boy. He's like a
Yes.
musician. He's really, really good in the movie. So there's some people in this that are obviously well known, but then there's a lot of actors in it that are kind of unknowns, or this is like one of their first big projects, which I thought
Right.
was cool. So
Agreed. I was shocked by this movie. This movie, too, it was like, as it was happening, I wouldn't say a lot of my brain was like, wow, wow, wow. The minute I left the theater, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to think about and process. But it was so, I don't know the last time I had a kind of a feeling like that. And last night I stayed up way too late because I was looking up everything I could find about this film.
I did that for the Minecraft movie. I had to.
No,
No, I did
no, Jared.
not. But yeah, there's so much stuff going on in this one. Obviously,
Yeah,
the music is very front and center as well.
so good.
So good. There's a scene in the movie that is just like really awe-inspiring in terms of music and musical performance, and kind of talking about and showing you different types of music throughout the years and decades and things like that, and they all kind of merge together in this one scene, which is really cool.
Okay, so this actually this veered into a small dislike for me, but once we got to the end of the film, I was totally for it. When that scene happened that you're talking about, I was like, what's going on? Like it just seemed out of left field. But then, and I don't even know if the vampires had started yet. I don't know. So
I think
when
maybe
that
they had, but they
first,
weren't like going full force
yeah.
yet.
And so at first I was like, what's happening? And then by the end of the film, I was like, oh, okay. But when it initially started and they're going through different decades and all this other stuff, I was like, what? Why? But now I'm all about it.
Also, how many people left your theater before the like 5 minute post credits scene?
Actually, almost no one. And what's weird
Okay.
is I have not been sitting through the credits as much as I used to. And I didn't move and I didn't know anything about a mid credits scene. And I just sat there and because I was gathering my stuff and just kind of like chilling for a minute. And then it popped up and I was like, oh, I'm glad I stayed. But almost no one left.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. In my showing, I would say probably 25% of the people did leave.
Oh
And so
no.
that credit, if you go see it, if you haven't seen it yet, that
Yeah.
credit scene is like vital to kind of understanding the whole story.
Yep.
So definitely like stick around for that. It's almost more of an epilogue than like a post credit scene.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about like it's talking about black artistry and black culture,
Yep.
and the symbolism as well. There's a lot of symbolism in this movie, with like the vampires and with Smoke and Stack. There's like symbolism there, like the dead, like seven deadly sins. You could tie into that, and even like their names. Like Stack is more obsessed with like money, and Smoke has other issues. So that there's a lot of things that are going on in this movie with that symbolism.
That's a really good point. And I'm glad that I'm kind of sad we can't do a whole episode about this because I could talk for about this for 90 minutes. But I did another thing like I even was interested in is One Me, who she plays Annie in the film. She was the actress that amazed me. And she was a lead for sure. And she even talked about how she learned about hoodoo. She's a hoodoo priestess in this. And she talked about the difference in an interview between hoodoo and voodoo and how there's like this negative connotation. But hoodoo is like this really beautiful, like, it's if somebody wasn't really into Western medicine and they believed in more like a holistic approach and stuff like that. Like hoodoo's a real thing, and I thought that was fascinating. And I just think like so much of the dancing, so much of the music was such a testament to black artistry. And they even talked about, I knew this, but of course we're hearing more about how rock and roll and blues started with black people, but how white people have taken it over, appropriation, which is what this whole movie is really about. The other thing that was so interesting to me was the reason they picked Irish people was because Irish and black people historically have been so treated like crap, and there's been so much racism and stuff, especially like outside of just in North America, but like Irish people have been treated terribly throughout the years.
I really enjoyed the first part of the movie too, where they're like, and you put it in the likes you had as well, where they're like
Yes.
getting everybody together. It's almost like it reminded me almost of like Ocean's 11 when they like get the team together for
Yeah.
the heist. It's like kind of that
Yes.
same thing because they're like, well, we're gonna need somebody to play music, and we're gonna need somebody to cook, and we're gonna need somebody to provide alcohol
Be a bouncer at the door.
and make a sign. And so
Yep.
there's all these, they're interacting with all these people in this town, that all come together, and obviously all come together at the juke joint. And I also
Mm-hmm.
love that like the second half of the movie like basically just takes place in that barn.
Location,
That's
you're right.
basically it for the second half of the movie. It's all happening in that area or outside of that area, but it's all in that one location, which I'm sure helped like keep the budget down a lot, and
Yeah.
also was cool that they were able to do so much in that like one set that they built. So
Yes. I will say out of the 3 movies that I saw this week for the podcast, this was by far, I think, the technically the strongest movie of all of them by far, by a long shot,
I
except
would
I
agree.
do think I'm more uncomfortable with things like the vampire aspect and stuff. I'm not into that. I don't gravitate towards that. But I think this movie as a whole was amazing. It was incredibly creative, very inventive, and Ryan Coogler I think is a big part of that. So he's clearly a filmmaker. He was already somebody to watch anyway and is already successful, but I think we're going to see a lot more from him. I kind of think he's echoing in a way Jordan Peele's kind of trajectory as well. But I thought the movie was great.
I will say like I'm not a fan of like horror movies usually, and I even looked up
Yes.
before this movie like if it had a lot of jump scares because I don't like that in movies either, and it said
Uh-huh.
it has a few but it doesn't really have a lot, so that was
I
good.
definitely did a
There was
couple
a couple.
times.
There was a
Yeah.
couple for sure,
Yeah.
but luckily it wasn't like every 5 minutes or anything. And like you, I'm not really a fan of like those slasher type movies either.
No,
But
I
I thought
hate
this was
them.
just like so interesting and so well done. And I think the other thing that really was that I liked about this movie was that when those like deaths start happening,
Uh-huh.
you've been with those characters for like an hour at this point, so you kind of like care about them a little bit
You're
more.
emotionally invested for
Yeah. Whereas
sure.
like a regular like slasher movie, like somebody could die in the first 5 minutes, and
No one
you're
cares.
like, okay, well, I didn't really know that person at all, so I don't really
Yeah.
care. But when they start like actually doing the slashing in this movie, it's like well into the movie, and so you've kind of built a relationship with a lot of these characters that are in this.
Yeah,
So
that's a really good point, Jared. And I had one other actress I wanted to call out was Jamie Lawson. She played Pearline. She's the one that was with kind of with Preacher Boy for a little bit, but I really liked her. She wowed me. Her, especially the dancing and the singing part in that one scene we were talking about. I just thought she was like very sexy, very like confident in her performance, and I loved it. And I was like very attracted to her.
So we'll hit some dislikes just real quick for Sinners. Obviously, this movie, we said it has a lot going on and there's a lot to catch, and I don't
Hmm.
think you'll catch all of it on the first viewing. So this is one that you probably will have to watch again, and I will likely, buy this on Blu-ray or whatever when it comes out, because I want to watch it again and pick up on things that I didn't catch the first time. Because like a story like this, I'm sure there's probably hints earlier in the movie or statements said earlier in the movie that maybe have more meaning once
Yeah.
the whole thing. So I think I would definitely want to watch this one again. And I think the another dislike that you had on here as well is that this is really kind of like two different movies. Like the first
Yes.
half is like completely different from the second half, or even like
Hmm.
the last really 45 minutes, I would say, is like completely different. So that is kind of a big tonal shift, which I feel like they pull off pretty well, but it is like you're almost watching like two different movies.
Yeah, that was hard for me. That was actually my biggest problem. Excuse me, was just like it felt like to me the second half didn't feel as strong as the first half. But I also recognize and want to acknowledge that the first half of the movie is more of a film I'd want to go see. Like I want a movie that's like a historical drama and it's got some love and all this stuff, romance in it. Um I don't think this is a movie. I don't think the average person would get the symbolism in this movie. I am someone who I would say is not uh naive to a lot of these problems. I think I am regularly interested in reading about a lot of these racial situations, but there was so much I had to look up that I was like, I didn't get this, or why was this relevant, or what did this scene mean? And I think to its detriment, a lot of people won't get it. But I think a thing that's really great about it is I think this movie was so intriguing and it's getting so much praise that a lot of people will go see it and then they will be encouraged to go do the research.
And another dislike that I just thought of that I don't think you or I had, but
Uh
I
huh.
could see somebody having is the exact opposite of that, where they go in thinking it's like a horror slasher movie, like from the get
Sure.
go. And that doesn't really start until an hour or hour and 15 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
So you could have that same thing in reverse where you're like, I want a good like slasher vampire
totally.
movie, and you're not going to get that for the first half of this. So
Yes. And I mean, I'm not into vampires and stuff. So, like, some of that stuff felt a little silly to me, but it's just, I know that that is me. That's a me problem. That's not like the movie is bad at all. I thought this movie was excellent. And then I don't know how to explain this, Jared. This kind of all goes together. It felt a tad long to me. And I can't tell if my issue was that final scene before the mid credits with the Grand Dragon of the KKK, which I won't ruin anything, but I couldn't tell if I didn't like that scene and everything that happened in that scene, or if I didn't like the mid-credit scene. But the mid-credit scene explained so much, and that line especially about I think that was the best day of my life, I think that's the point of the movie. Like, that's a big,
yep.
so I don't think you could cut that out. But something about those two sections felt like too much, too long. I don't know. I just feel like I would have wanted them to be a little bit different.
I guess this is like a slight spoiler just before we move
Yeah.
on, but I
Spoiler.
think I think like you said, once they've kind of gotten free from the vampires, there's like 15, 20 minutes after that in the movie, and I think that's the point where like it just didn't, like you said, it kind of didn't wrap up the ending very
Yeah.
well. It felt like it had and it was doing so much, like it had so many different things it wanted to hit on, and like so many different characters and storylines that wanted to like make sure it like try to wrap all those things up, but I felt like it was just kind of a little disjointed at the end there in terms of coming to a good like closure.
Well, and I think one other thing, this is nitpicky, but this was a super sexual movie, which you expect with vampires and stuff, like, of course. But sometimes I do wonder, especially with a movie like this that was very educational about real topics, I'm like, how much of this was needed? And then how much of this is just like, oh, these people are hot, so we have to throw sex in here? Because there was a lot of mentioning of sex and a lot of sex. And I just
Hmm.
kind of was like, I don't know that I needed all of this. I mean, these people are hot. I get it. But that also was kind of a lot for me. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, overall, this movie was great. I can see why people are praising it so much. And it was definitely to me hardcore, easily the strongest of the three.
Yeah. So let's move on now to Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So
Yes.
the newest movie in the Mission Impossible franchise.
Yeah. Probably the one I have the least things to say.
Okay. Synopsis: Our lives are the sum of our choices. Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. All the regular crew are here. Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, who's been in the last couple, Ving
Hmm.
Rhames, Simon Pegg, Angela Bassett plays the president in this one. So in this movie, Tom Cruise has to save the world because AI has taken over,
Yeah.
and AI, very realistic, like plot line. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm going to give him credit for that.
Right off
Like,
the bat, great plot.
yeah,
Like a real, like a plot that's plausible.
like basically Tom Cruise has to stop AI
Yeah.
from infiltrating and just like taking over all these nuclear missiles that not only the US have, but other countries around the world have, and controlling those. So that's the plot of this movie. First we'll talk about likes for this one. Obviously, we got a lot of hot people in this movie. No denying it.
Yeah,
So
for real. I think Palm.
just like Sinners, honestly. A lot of hot people in this
Yeah,
one
I
too.
mean, for me, Haley Atwell is the one that I'm like drooling over myself. Palm Clementif, because she's French and a daredevil and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, drool. Angela Bassett might be just one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And she looks like she's 35. I don't understand, except I do. And then Hannah Waddingham, everybody loves her. I mean, just hot, hot, hot people. And this movie also reminded me of how hot Tom Cruise used to be. I wouldn't say he is now, but man, we're talking like 90s, like A Few Good Men, early Mission Impossible days. Whoa.
Jerry Maguire.
Whoa. Boy, did I forget, but I
Well,
was reminded.
one thing that does happen a lot in this movie is flashbacks, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But this was overall pretty good movie. Fun genre, obviously. This type of movie of like going on. It's almost like it's basically a heist movie. Like
Yeah.
we got to go save the world. And in the first one, it's so funny. All these movie franchises, like the first one is something like so simple and so easy that like one person can do it. And then when we get to one like this, it's like it's the whole world, and you will have to get all these people involved for this situation. Because the first Mission Impossible is him like dropping down like through the ceiling and
Yep.
basically like hacking into one computer. And then
Now that was a beautiful callback.
Mhm.
That the man that was in it was the one that was there when he dropped down from the ceiling. That was beautiful.
That was cool. That was
Yeah.
kind of I didn't even put that together, but that was really cool when they
Yeah.
when they kind of revealed that. So,
Yes.
obviously, good locations in this one. Ending was pretty good.
I thought
With
so too. I felt
mhm,
like this could definitely be the end of Mission Impossible, but I don't believe any celebrities anymore when there's a franchise like this when they say this is the end. I don't believe them. But
mhm.
I for the sake of this, I hope it is.
Yeah, I could see them possibly setting up like Haley Atwell maybe to take
Yeah.
over the franchise.
Yeah.
I could see it going that way because everybody else is like too old. Like Simon Pegg is not going to lead Mission Impossible movies.
Right.
You know, and other people that haven't really been introduced at this point. So, like we said, locations were good, and then like for the second, I really enjoyed like the second 2 hours of this movie. Like this movie's 2 hours and 50 minutes. Um, the first hour, which I'll talk about more in dislikes, I did not love. But once Tom Cruise got on that submarine,
Yeah.
from then on it was like nonstop
Let's
to the
do
end.
this.
So that was where I really started to enjoy the movie a lot. So
Yes, absolutely. And then we've done spoilers on this podcast, but I will say another thing I liked. I won't ruin who it was, but there
we're
was
probably
a
gonna have to
main.
spoil it in a second.
Well,
So
probably. There was a main character that I really thought I was like, they're gonna kill this person, and they didn't, and I was so happy that they didn't.
I guess we'll go ahead and mention spoilers now. So if you haven't seen Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, spoilers upcoming. But yeah, so that was kind of a like and dislike for me because they did not kill Simon Pegg.
Right.
In fact, even when he popped up at the end of the movie, like 3 people in the theater clapped, and I was like pretty sure from that last scene that he was, it was assumed he was not dead, but I'm glad you got that confirmation.
Right.
We did kill Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames.
And I felt like that came really early in the movie. He didn't even get to go on the mission.
Sad. That was so sad. I knew someone would die, though. I was like, they're going to kill someone. And I don't want anybody to die, but I would have preferred Ving's character over Simon Pegg's character.
Also, the stunts in this movie are fantastic, just like
They're
all the
so
Mission
good.
Impossible movies. That sequence on the submarine was literally 20 minutes of him not talking, and my entire theater was silent. Like nobody was eating popcorn, drinking anything.
No, I'm with you. I felt like the world was caving in on me. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had to get out of the submarine. That was so good.
And obviously, it seems like they shot that and I haven't seen a making of, but it would be really cool to see it for that sequence in particular. But it seems like they were probably in a tank or something that was like rotating with that set to get the water to because a lot of that is he's really in the water and he's actually swimming and trying to go through there. Some of it is CGI, which you can tell in a couple of little parts, but for the most part, he's actually in there. And then obviously the other sequence of the planes. He's actually hanging off the side of the plane. They've released footage of that, like how they basically shot that. Like he was wearing the camera for that sequence. There was no camera person. It was just him on the side of the plane.
Yeah.
So that was an insane sequence as well. And I really like how every one of these movies does a really good job where it builds towards the end. Most of them have them defusing a bomb at the very end of the movie for whatever reason.
It's always a bomb.
But the way they kind of build up to it and it gets more and more intense as we get closer and closer, I think is really well done with these movies.
I think so too. Let me know when you're ready for a dislike.
Okay. One more I had was I liked how the very final sequence, the whole movie they're talking about when they are able to capture this AI, they're going to have to do it so fast, in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And the very final, when they finally accomplish the mission, Haley Atwell's looking for a green light to turn on, cut a wire, and grab this pillar thing out of this slot. I liked how fast they did that. I liked how quick Christopher McQuarrie, the director, decided to do that sequence because their whole movie they're talking about how fast it is. And they really do that. I just was impressed by that one scene of she sees the light, cuts the wire, pulls it out. It's not even a second that all that happens. But the whole movie, they're talking about how fast it has to happen. So I like that they actually stuck to that. And it wasn't a slow motion sequence where she was let me grab it. And, and also she's great apparently at being a doctor as well. So performing.
Yes. Well, Pom did that. Yeah.
But they both helped save Simon Pegg's life well. So
for sure. That was, wow. Yeah. Everything. I just was on the edge of my seat for this film. Sinners, it was jump scares. For me, definitely. And then this one, I felt like I couldn't breathe because I was so scared during it was just so much action, so many things happening at once. But I guess my main gripe about any movie with Tom Cruise is I hate Tom Cruise. I shouldn't say I hate. I cannot stand the man, and he is for sure for me one of the hardest people I have separating from the art. Where I'm just I don't like you so much that it's hard for me to even look at you on screen. And I just feel like he is so in love with himself, more than most actors, where everybody says he's nice. Every cast person they interview. But I'm okay, well, he's sending you the coconut cake he's known for. That's so,
that's his thing.
You're making millions of dollars from this movie. So of course you're going to say he's nice, but I don't believe it. And I believe he's nice to the people that are famous that he works with, but his kids want nothing to do with him. None of them. He has 2 ex-wives that have nothing nice to say about him and don't even speak to him. He's the reason we talk about Scientology, which is so spooky. But he also, and also, like, why do you think we have so much footage of him doing these stunts? Because he wants us to know he did the stunts, and he's like, film me, film me.
Hmm.
Everybody look, I'm in my 60s and I can do this. And it's impressive. It is absolutely impressive. But I just don't like him. And so it is hard to watch these films. And then the other thing that was really hard for me was the callbacks. I
This was
think,
my least favorite part of this movie.
oh, good. Okay. I didn't know. So if everybody knows, I feel kind of terrible about this, but I've only seen the first one and
Okay.
then the second to last and this one. Like, I've only seen 3 of them.
Oh, you gotta
So
watch Fallout. That's probably the best one.
I want to watch all of them. And I actually plan to do that pretty soon. But if you had not watched these like me, you now know everyone who dies, everyone who mattered to him, absolutely everything that's going to happen in all the films. And I guess in a way, yeah, that could be expected when it's the final reckoning. But I'm also like, what did you need to do all those callbacks, or did you need to do all of them? Like, you could mention, like, oh, his wife was killed, and then not mention every other character that was killed. So I didn't like the callback sequence. It really bothered me, but that could just be me.
So I have seen all of these movies, and I did not like the callback sequence for the other reason of that I had already seen all that stuff before. So why is it in this movie? And so, I've seen all these sequences and these deaths and things like that. Like, I'm caught up of what happens in this one. So, and there was so much of that in the first hour. Like, literally, like, it seemed like we were just watching old Mission Impossible movies. And it seemed like in the first hour too, the plot was like really clunky. They didn't know how to like set it up correctly. And there was no big action sequences in the first hour either. I think what would have helped is if we had broken up that flashbacks, if you will, with something big that happened that was, and obviously like Ving Rhames dies in the first hour as Luther, but there's no real big action sequence in that first hour to kind of hang its hat on. And so I think that plus the flashbacks makes it pretty slow early on in the movie. And I feel like you could have cut a lot of that out in the beginning of the movie and it still could have been a really good movie. And we could have just, gone to the second half of the movie, which I thought was a much better part of the movie.
Yes, agreed. I mean, this was definitely a summer blockbuster. Of the 3 movies, this is the most my kind of movie.
Hmm.
So that was definitely a good thing for it. All of these, I'm still going to give scores and stuff like on our score sheet for those who are listening, and I'm still going to put them on my Letterboxd and everything. Um, I would say it did feel too long for sure.
It was almost 3 hours. That's
Yeah, I mean,
insane.
and the fact that a Marvel movie and Sinners, which actually had something to say, were both extremely shorter than this is a problem. Well, you know when a Marvel movie is nowhere near the length of this one, and this is a part 2, crazy,
Hmm.
insane.
Yeah, so that's the thoughts on Mission Impossible. Overall, pretty good wrap up to the series. Has a lot of great action. Probably could have cut some stuff from the first hour
Yeah.
and would have been still great. So let's go to Thunderbolts now. I did not see this. I have not seen this yet, but you have seen it. The new Marvel
Yes.
movie, starring Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Louis Pullman. An unconventional team of anti-heroes must go on a dangerous mission that will force them to confront the darkest corners of their past. So, what did you like about Thunderbolts? Just kind of as
Okay,
an overview.
I think for the most part I can do this without spoilers, but I will probably mention who the villains are.
Okay, that's fine. If I see it, I'll just know that going in.
Okay. This movie, the main thing that I noticed, but I've also heard other people say this movie was way more poignant and meaningful than anticipated. Like, this actually had a point, and it wasn't just to make explosions and callbacks to previous movies and then introduce a future movie. Like, that wasn't the point of this, which was really interesting. And this movie basically is about depression,
Okay.
which was really like that's a very topical thing. And because I think this is where someone used a topic, a movie franchise that is so prevalent and people know it in the universe that they actually like used it to their advantage. So that people, because so many people struggle with depression. Um, so really good. Florence Pugh was a standout. I don't want to say she carried the movie on her back, but she definitely was like the lead of this film and did a great job. And her eye makeup was on point, Jared. When you see it, oh my gosh, like shout out to the makeup artist. She had like this gorgeous eyeliner that I immediately, I mean, I was in the parking lot and looked it up, and God bless the influencers and the TikTokers, because I don't even have TikTok, but you can still see some of the tutorials and stuff. And I immediately bought an eye pencil, and I'm going to try the look soon. So I'm excited.
Okay.
Lewis Pullman did a great job. I've seen him in a couple things, but he was a real standout as well because he had to do a lot of acting. Like, he had to be comedic relief. He also had to instill fear, and he also had to instill empathy in people, and he did a really good job. Another, like, it wasn't 3 hours long. Yay,
Woo!
Marvel! Finally. So this is where it's one of the spoiler things. The only one I really have is Julia Louis-Dreyfus was a really good villain. Like, I didn't see that coming. And who knew? And then I just think in general, this was such a nice departure from the typical Marvel films in tone, number of explosions, action, love, like romance things that really didn't exist, and then the length of the film. So I think as far as like recent Marvel movies, this was a standout for me. But yeah, that's what I have to say right now.
It's good that it seemed like it kind of went back to Marvel's roots a little bit, at least from what you're saying,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that it has some characters that you care about, some storylines that actually matter. Not something, and they're getting away from this too, where you have to have seen 7 movies and 4 TV shows before you go into a Marvel movie. They're trying to
right.
divert because people got annoyed that they'd have to watch 3 Disney Plus series before they could go see the new Marvel movie. So they're trying to like get away from that a little bit, I think. And this one seems like it's
Yes,
more of a, like you said, like a grounded story with some new characters that are obviously this is not a spoiler, but the revised title has been revealed, which is like the new Avengers. Is that what it's called now?
oh yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
that's been out there for a while. So
I
yeah.
forgot an important like, Jared.
Okay.
There is a scene where Sebastian Stan, just let me take a deep breath here. Okay. Like,
Set it up for us.
there is a scene. Sebastian Stan comes to help them, and he is on a motorcycle, and I don't even have words. I don't have words. Just praise the Lord, okay? Just he and I don't love motorcycles, and I especially don't love people who don't wear helmets when they ride motorcycles, but I will condone it in this one instance because whoa. Little Bucky Barnes was flying up the road, came to save the day. Woo, he was looking good. Oh man. So I just wanted to take a minute. I mean, Sebastian
Did you ask
Stan,
them if they could replay that scene for you in the theater? You
no,
say, "Can you
I thought
rewind
about
that
it.
just a minute?"
I thought about it, but there were a lot of people in the theater, and I was like, "Ugh, maybe they're not all feeling this the way I am." But I thought I needed like a cold drink, a portable fan. I needed like my blood pressure taken. Man, I love Sebastian Stan. But anyway, that's it for my likes.
So, what are your dislikes with Thunderbolts here? Does it suffer
So
from those? It sounds like it doesn't suffer from those normal Marvel movie problems where
mm,
it's like too much going on and
no,
nothing really means anything, and there's like you said, too much
no,
explosions and actions
absolutely
to
not.
cover up like story failures or anything. So,
Actually, none of that. I
okay,
felt like it did slightly have one of those double endings where you're like, oh,
okay.
this is the climax. And then they're
Does it
like, no, no,
have
wait, this is the climax.
Does it
So
have a
that was,
big like final action sequence? Is that how it kind of
yeah,
goes out? Okay, so
yeah.
that's standard. So with
That's
all these,
standard.
yeah.
And then I did think this is similar to like kind of an issue with Sinners where when I see vampires, I'm just like, okay. Because to me, it's a little cheesy. I felt like the villain part, because it's not just Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I did feel like one of the villains was the graphics weren't my forte, and it was a little bit cheesy. Kind
Okay.
of like, oh, if we all band together and love each other, we're fine. We can overcome anything. Sure. When I'm like, okay, but depression's like that's a real serious thing. Like a hug's not going to fix it. But I thought overall, this was such a great departure from the typical Marvel movies. And I liked too the ragtag like band of people. Like in real life, I'm not a huge David Harbour fan, but like he added so much comedy in this film. Florence is great. I mean, like it was a great group of people. Even now the one thing also I didn't understand that Marvel stands would get, Wyatt Russell was playing like a Captain America character, and I was confused. Like, I
Okay.
kind of was like, wait, what? Because I know he's not Captain America. And then I was like, maybe I missed it, but I feel like I have to be deep in it, deep in Marvel to understand what was happening there. But either way, I thought the movie was really good. I think out of all three movies, I would put this in third place by a couple points, percentage wise. And would put Mission Impossible above it because I just like the style of Mission Impossible, that genre, better.
So apparently, looking up Wyatt Russell's character in this real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
So this is based on something that happened in the TV show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I would never know that. Dang
So
it.
he was apparently introduced as like a government appointed Captain America. Like the government was like, you're going to be Captain America now. And he was given the serum, but
Oh.
he publicly killed a civilian. So his reputation was tarnished after that.
he did. That did come up. Yeah.
Okay.
But they
so
didn't
I don't know if that
explain-
helps it make more sense
does,
or
it
not.
does.
So, okay.
That didn't explain all of it, but that makes much more sense. But I did not watch that TV show. And that's one of my gripes with Marvel. Like, I don't have time. Listen, I'm trying to watch every Bravo show in the universe, okay? I don't have time. And every episode of Dateline and SVU.
Andy Cohen is on that TV 18 hours a day, okay?
I do not have time for this. But anyway, it was really good. I hope you see it. And thank you all for caring about my opinions about Thunderbolts.
And hopefully this means Marvel's headed back in the right direction. And we've
yes,
got Fantastic
please.
Four coming out later this year, which
Yes.
is obviously they're putting like all their eggs in a basket in that one
They
because
sure are.
it seems like it's going to be their biggest movie in a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully that is really good, and hopefully that kind of follows the same formula of like a more grounded story that actually has you care about some of the characters. So
Yep.
Well, there's all of our thoughts on Sinners, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, and Thunderbolts. If you like the show, you can follow us on social media at Podcast Silver. We're also on YouTube. Just search the Silver Screen Podcast. You can listen to our episodes there as well. Lots of people have been doing that recently. We thank them for checking us out on YouTube. And next up, I don't really know. We'll probably have a little one of these recap episodes again later in the summer where we maybe talk about F1 and Jurassic World and The Materialist, maybe some other thing, maybe Ballerina. We'll see if we get that in there. So
maybe Bravo shows. Who knows?
Yeah, there'll be more Bravo shows out by then. So that'll be exciting to discuss all the Bravo verse. So until next time, thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Silver Screen Podcast.
Until next time, we'd like to thank the Academy.